Yeah, I'm thinking in follow-up, I'm thinking about the future as we brought these two systems together, and we had to do some things to try and have compatibility of the software, but at some point past that, there'll be yet another upgrade or whatever. How does that get handled? How do they provide for that future eventuality?
I can't speak to that right now because I don't know the mechanism for that. I'm going to be a new board member for the XO board, so I'm going to experience that here shortly. But any of those increases and any increase in costs will be approved on by that XO board, and they'll have to have the adequate funding to accomplish that, or they'll have to increase the rates to the users in order to pay for that.
Well, Chief, I'm certainly glad to see you standing there in the capacity that you are, and perhaps it wasn't a fair question quite at this
well,
period, but that's what's on my mind.
Sure. Well, it's definitely on my mind too, because we are one of the larger users of XO, but again, the reason we got into the consolidation business in the first place was, one, it had to be better service, and it had to be at least a wash or not an increase in cost to us. So there'd be no reason for us to have jumped into that if it wasn't going to save us money and give us better service. And you can be assured that I will carry that mantra at the XO board meetings, because we are a customer now, and we would expect the best possible price for the best possible service. And if there is an increase across the board for software upgrades, that's going to have to be spread across all the users.
Well, yeah, and just once again as a follow-up, it's not all about the dollars, although there were several $100,000 in savings that can be realized through this, but there are intangibles about the efficiency of the system and response times and a whole lot of other things
Sure.
that the public benefits from by having a cooperative effort. So those are duly noted as well.
Thank you.
Ms. Kahn, did you have a comment or anything on?
Nothing in particular. I was here to assist the chief if we got more into accounting questions, but he did bring up the 911, and we will recognize the 911 revenue and show the expense. So if you were to look in our budget, the number for dispatching includes this expense as well as the giving of the 911 revenue to the system, because we are the recipients, although we don't ever see the money. So we have to show it as revenue and show it as an expense in giving it away. Just so you know that.
Okay.
A little accounting trivia for the day.
Dick?
I move approval of 40.1.
Second.
Motion is second to approve 40.1. Any further discussion from council? Glenda, if you call the roll, please.
Dick Gordon?
Yes.
Bob Strasser?
Yes.
Karen Blair?
Yes.
John Michael? Yes. Al Densmore?
Yes.
James Koontz?
Yes.
Greg Jones?
Yes.
There are 7 yes votes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. At this point, we'll go into ordinances and resolutions. This is agenda item 60. And I understand, Ms. Cooper, that we're going to pull 60.1. Is that correct?
Yes.
So we'll proceed with the other items. Then 60.2, then, please.
Council Bill 2011-117, ordinance authorizing execution of an intergovernmental agreement with Jackson County in the amount of $46,071 for providing services at the William H. Moore Sobering Unit during fiscal year 2011-12.
Thank you. Mr. Strasser.
Adoption of 60.2.
Second.
I have a motion and a second from Mr. Michaels. Mr. Strasser.
Just that as I think back, I recognize the work from Bill Moore, William H. Moore, for all of those years, and his efforts towards the recovery and rehabilitation of people in this county.
Thank you. Further council discussion. Glenda, if you'd call the roll for 60.2, please.
Bob Strasser?
Yes.
John Michael?
Yes.
James Koontz?
Yes.
Greg Jones?
Yes.
Dick Gordon?
Yes.
Al Densmore?
Yes.
Karen Blair?
Yes.
There are 7 yes votes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. 60.3, Ms. Cooper.
Council Bill 2011-118, ordinance authorizing execution of an amendment to the stadium naming rights agreement with the Medford Youth Baseball Society and Harry and David Operations Corporation pertaining to payments and due dates.
Thank you. Mr. Strasser.
Move adoption of 60.3.
Second.
Second from Mr. Jones. Council discussion. We have Mr. Miller in the audience if we have any questions. I'm sure you'd be willing to answer? Mr. Miller, I'll just give you an opportunity if there's anything you'd like to say at this point on this agenda item, or you're welcome to come forward to do so, or not.
Or not.
Well, I'm fine.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Gordon.
Well, could we have Brian give a staff report?
I reserve the right to.
Mr. Miller has a right to rebuttal here, so we'll.
Brian Shotun, Parks and Recreation Director. The City of Medford has a contract with Medford Youth Baseball Society for the operations of Harry and David Field. And with that, I'll turn the rest of the staff report over to Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Brian. I've enjoyed working with Brian for many years. But I guess in a short phrase, we're very excited about this. It's wonderful news, not only for our ability to continue to manage the facility on behalf of the city, but also from a community standpoint to have that funding available to continue to have Harry and David Field available to the community. So we would really appreciate approval of the proposed amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Miller. Mr. Shotun.
The only thing I'd like to, a couple things like that, I just compliment Gary and all the work that he's done out there at Harry and David Field. And now that he's retired, hopefully he has more time to devote to that, because we have some other volunteer opportunities for him out at the park. So hopefully we'll get those assigned to him. But the other thing is that this is a reduction in the naming rights for the field. However, it does not negatively impact the rest of the park, and the naming rights agreements that we currently have in place are seeking at this time or will be sought in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Shotun. Any questions for Mr. Shotun?
No, I just have a comment that I was extremely pleased to see that Harry and David is willing to continue on for another 5 years, making payment in return for the naming rights for Harry and David Field. I think that's very positive, and it was super to hear.
Mr. Densmore?
I was just wondering if you had a motion on this, Your Honor.
Yeah, we do. Further council discussion? Glenda, if you call the roll, please.
Bob Strasser?
Yes.
Greg Jones?
Yes.
Al Dinsmore?
Yes.
James Coombs?
Yes.
Karen Blair?
Yes.
Dick Gordon?
Yes.
John Michaels?
Yes.
There are 7 yes votes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Then we'll go to agenda item 60.4. Ms. Cooper.
Council Bill 2011-119, ordinance authorizing execution of Amendment Number 1 to Intergovernmental Agreement Number 25149 with the Oregon Department of Transportation to decrease the number of alleys being paved.
Thank you. Entertain a motion.
Move adoption.
Thank you.
Second?
Mr. Densmore made the motion and Mr. Strasser seconded. Council discussion. Seeing none, Glenda, would you call the roll, please?
Al Dinsmore?
Yes.
Bob Strasser?
Yes.
Greg Jones?
Yes.
John Michaels?
Yes.
James Coombs?
Yes.
Karen Blair?
Yes.
Dick Gordon?
Yes.
There are 7 yes votes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Then we'll go to agenda item 60.5. Ms. Cooper.
Council Bill 2011-120, ordinance of the City of Medford, Oregon, authorizing the execution, sale, and delivery of limited tax revenue refunding bonds, Series 2011, in an aggregate principal amount necessary to redeem and/or defease its 1999 bonds and 2002 bonds, and to pay costs of issuance of the 2011 bonds, authorizing the execution and delivery of related documents, and designating an authorized representative of the city in related matters.
Thank you. Entertain a motion. Mr. Strasser.
Move adoption of 60.5.
Second.
Second from Mr. Jones. Council discussion. Mr. Strasser.
I'm just inquiring if everybody's awake.
We're just deferring to your
That's right.
expertise. Mr. Gordon?
Well, I would certainly like to hear from Allison on it. If reading the background and key issues, I mean, Allison saving taxpayers $270,000, and that's got to be noticed. Thank you.
Well, it's not done yet. That would be the first thing I would say, because as we all know, interest rates change daily. There was a slight uptick last week. I'm hoping it will tick down before we actually issue the bonds. But even with the uptick, there's still a savings. So, and obviously, we won't execute this if for some reason in the next 3 weeks, interest rates continue to climb, but there's no reason to believe that. So hopefully it will proceed and we will save the city in excess of $200,000.
Very
And
good.
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Other questions for Ms. Khan? Okay.
Thank you.
Further council discussion? We have a motion and a second. Glenn, if you call the roll, please.
Bob Strasser.
Yes.
Greg Jones.
Yes.
Karen Blair.
Yes.
Dick Gordon.
Yes.
James Coombs.
Yes.
Al Densmore.
Yes.
John Michaels.
Yes.
There are 7 yes votes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. That passes, and that concludes ordinances and resolutions. We have a public hearing that has been continued from our June 16th meeting. This is agenda item 70.1. This is a consideration of an appeal of an administrative decision regarding the denial of a taxi driver ID card for Robert Gatlin. And I think we'd asked Mr. Gatlin if he could gather up some documentation, and this will be a continuation of his testimony, and so we appreciate you coming forward. Thank you.
Do I give this to her?
If you need it for some reference, you may do so, or you can pass it on to... Thank you. You bet. Mr. Gatlin, if I could I?
Oh,
Thank you very much.
I'm just so used to wearing it.
That's fine. Thank you. I know that Mr. Corcoran is not here this afternoon, but he's the one that had some of the questions on on the documentation and so on. So maybe you, as this comes around, you could fill us in a little bit.
Well,
and then,
it's he asked for jobs, that I've done, so I went clean back to 99, and because the other ones, like I said, Gazebo Works went out of business. Well, I thought they had the fireplace still there, but they're completely out of business. I called his son and couldn't get a hold of